And a good Tuesday morning to you. Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards forecaster. This weather video is driven by 802cars.com. They represent 802 Toyota, Twin City Subaru, and 802 Honda, all located off of exit 7 on Interstate 89. Big broad view here. Not so much dust coming off the Sahara right now. Signs of getting into the later season here, early autumn. We have Hurricane Lorenzo that's going to be taking a track up toward the British Isles and looks like off the coast of Scotland. And other than that, really no threats for land. One little disturbance here could try to make a run into the Gulf of Mexico eventually, but that's a long ways around the corner. So we also see kind of a big arc. This is a frontal boundary. This is very humid, warm air mass, very summer-like air mass. It's located over the south-central United States. It kind of pokes up into the Great Lakes, and there's thunderstorms along this frontal boundary. Well, thunderstorms have been coming over and swinging over the top of the ridge as very unstable air is lurking to the west of us. And we'll probably see some breaks or intervals of sunshine once a little bit of this gets into our neck of the woods here. And that'll be followed by a round of thunderstorms as a weak area of low pressure tracks across Quebec and drags a cold front through. All of that happening late in the day on Tuesday into Tuesday evening. Beyond that, things kind of settle out. We get a little bit colder, but pretty wet week, and it looks like fairly wet next week as well. Looking at the U.S., centered on Vermont here, off to the west we have CAPE, or Convective Available Potential Energy. You can see that it's a little bit higher off to the west. This is associated with an area of low pressure that's going to be pushing off to the east, kind of east-southeast. It's going to drag a cold front through. We're going to get into the warm sector very briefly during the afternoon on Tuesday. And it's Tuesday late in the day, Tuesday evening, that this frontal system will slide on through. We could see some embedded thunderstorm activity and maybe some localized gusty winds just barely exceeding 40 miles per hour. That's a possibility of the best chances across the northern tier of Vermont. And dew point temperatures kind of illustrate where this frontal boundary is. You can see dew points basically in the 60s, as high as 68 degrees even in parts of north of Lake Ontario. And this is going to be kind of working its way in out ahead of this frontal boundary that then pushes on by Tuesday night. Let's take a look at the 6-hourly increments of the European model. So this is valid at 2 o'clock Tuesday afternoon, keeping your eyes on Vermont. Taking a look at the 12-hour, this is 12 hours earlier, so the model runs can be compared. And you're looking at the European model. So this is valid now about 8 o'clock in the evening, so that's 6 hours. We're looking at precipitation will have fallen across the northern part of Vermont. This is that frontal system I've been talking about that's going to be sagging south. It's a little heftier in portions of really northern Vermont, and you can kind of see that. This is valid now roughly about 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday. So it continues to rain until that frontal boundary pushes drier air, and then elongated area of higher pressure north of the Great Lakes begins to push in. Note this here, this is thicknesses that would support snow over rain. So shows you this time of year we're starting to get into some cooler air masses as they arrive across Canada. So that area of higher pressure builds in. We should see a pretty nice day once we get into Wednesday afternoon, Wednesday night, and into Thursday all day before this little frontal boundary, this next weather disturbance kind of pushes in with a little bit of rain showers encroaching. This is valid about 8 o'clock during the evening hours Thursday evening. And Thursday night, we're back into some rain. It looks like a warm frontal boundary. And then the very tail end of that, you can see just some cooler air mass here. And who knows, we might even see a couple wet snowflakes in some parts of the highest terrain. But overall, this is not really a big deal at this point in time. Just a little bit too early in the season. I see others around the corner in the longer distance. Area of higher pressure builds in. This is a good one, too. This is going to build in for basically Friday afternoon, Friday night, and Saturday. 1033 hectopascals. You see it peaks out there at 1035. Starts to weaken at 1030, centered south on Long Island. This is valid now 8 o'clock in the evening on Saturday. And so this influence of this area of higher pressure is a pretty strong one. Now, oftentimes we can start to get some gradient wind issues with it. And, of course, we're beyond the period now as we get into Sunday. But we could find maybe a little bit of a gusty south channeling wind. Another weather disturbance works on in with another wavy frontal boundary. It's going to be in the area. This is valid about 2 o'clock in the morning. It looks like on next Tuesday, the 8th of October. And then you can see a little bit better chances to see some, perhaps, a little bit of wet snow in some of our local mountaintops. Typically, you're looking 12 hours earlier. it wasn't even showing that. The coldest temperatures were way up to the north. So you can see there's a lot of model breakdown here once we get past probably about the 8th, the 9th of October. Going to run the precipitable water, or PWATS, and what this shows here is a pretty broad area, 2 to 3 standard deviations right here, and this is valid during the overnight period tonight. That frontal boundary then pushes off to the south. We get into much drier conditions for a time. That's the better day on Thursday, a good project weather day. And then a little wave of low pressure kind of works across, brings in some, about 1 sigma, 1 to 2 sigma, and then that quickly moves on out. That would be Thursday night into Friday morning. And then we have a push of much drier air with a pretty good settled setup for Saturday. That lasts into Sunday, associated with a big broad area of higher pressure I showed you. And then here's our next weather maker. That's about 1 to 2 sigma precipitable water, standard deviation. So, not a big deal there. Quickly look into the GFS ensemble. You can see the setups here. This is our frontal boundary today, and then our next rain weather maker comes in, and 2 days of dry weather over the weekend, and then that's followed by Sunday night into Monday of next week. And you can see another stretch of drier weather showing up in the GFS ensemble. Precipitation through the period. Precipitable water is over the next 24 hours at definitely its highest. Then we dry out, secondary push, and then we dry out considerably more. 2-meter temperatures, you can see a big push up with the warmest days occurring the rest of today, Tuesday, and then pretty good temperature fall. And then we're also looking at dew point temperatures here, and that shows up here. And so highest dew points near 65 degrees today, and an unstable air mass. It is October, and we have to start to worry about a little bit of forecasting snow. This is 850 hectopascal levels. This is the precipitable water, or excuse me, the temperature at about the top of Mount Mansfield, staying above the freezing mark, 0 degrees centigrade. So this goes a little bit below, but by that time we have really no precipitation to worry about, and that's really what we want to see here. So looking at the 3-hourly QPF during this period here, we're all dry. That's over the weekend. Can't miss the storm track here. This is Weather Prediction Center 7-day total QPF. You can see a big flow coming around a large ridge of higher pressure, that heat ridge over the southeast U.S., and the flow comes up from the Gulf of Mexico through Mexico and then tracks to the northeast across the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, and then eventually into Vermont. Temperature-wise, we're running a little bit below normal, about 3 to 6 degrees below normal. And about 3 days later, that's the next 5 days of maximum temperatures. And about 3 days later, we're looking at very similar conditions as well. So not a whole lot of change. Here's your temperature anomalies. You can see that it's much below normal across the west coast as a pretty good batch of colder air has moved south. The high latitudes, we've seen temperatures warm up as a ridging of higher pressure now supporting a negative Arctic oscillation, negative phase of the North Atlantic oscillation. That hasn't quite occurred yet, but we have this colder, below normal temperatures in the west and above normal temperatures in the east. All of this will be tracking our way eventually. Tropical cyclones, Lorenzo's the big deal, headed for off the Scottish coast. We have another system that will probably follow, only about a 10% chance for cyclone formation. Same thing with one that may come in across the Yucatan into the Gulf of Mexico. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.